Hello, my name is Jeremy Montero, and I'm the Executive Director and Music Director of the Jazz Association Singapore, which was founded 9 years ago, back in 2016. One of our major projects next year, when we embark on our 10th year, our 10th anniversary will be in 2026, is a book, a historical book about the jazz scene in Singapore from 1965 all the way to 2025. And we will be interviewing some eminent musicians in the jazz scene in Singapore, from Maestro Luis Soliano, our Cultural Medallion recipient, and also the Jazz Association Singapore Lifetime Achievement Award recipient will be the subject of interviews. We are also interviewing eminent musicians like Maestro Dato Johari Salleh, who was born in Singapore and ended up also being the music director of the Radio TV Malaysia Orchestra, but had many good years working in Singapore as a musician, as a trumpet player, as well as an arranger and band leader before he moved to Malaysia. I had a chance to sit down with Dato Johari Salleh, and I wanted to share the initial research interview that I did with him. I'll be coming up with my team of editorial members of the team, including the lead writer of the book, Kannan Chandran. I will be writing the book with Kannan Chandran. And I'll also be coming up with Sinclair, the researcher for the book, and Chokorong, who's the project manager for the book project. We're very excited about starting this project and the initial interview with Dato Johari. And I'm going to share now this wonderful encounter I had with him earlier today, and looking forward to coming back to learning more from him about the early history of Singapore jazz. The book will also have a preamble from the 1946, after the war, when jazz started in Singapore, until 1965 when Singapore became independent. But of course that time is going to be based on whatever we can gather from people who remember. But for 1965, it should be reasonably accurate, because the folks who were the protagonists of the jazz scene are still with us and still remember the stories very freshly, and we're going to get the input from them all the way through. The book will talk about in the 70s, when I first emerged, great musicians like Mei Shum came onto the scene, and later on Chokorong and Wei Siang Tan and others, and talk about the history of jazz right until the end of 2025. So stay tuned. So I'm so happy to be here with the eminent musician, someone I've respected for many decades.
Thank you very much.
The former music director of the RTM Radio TV Malaysia Orchestra. And in the 70s, when I used to listen to the RTM Orchestra after Dato Johari Salleh over here came back from Berklee College of Music, I was just astonished by the music.
Thanks.
So Maestro Johari was actually born in Singapore in
Yes.
the 1940,
1940.
and lived in Singapore until he moved to Malaysia in 1961.
Yes.
So the Jazz Association Singapore is embarking on a book to talk about the history of jazz in Singapore for the 60 years since Singapore has been around, from 1965 until 2025, but also a preamble on what was happening in Singapore jazz from 1945 to 1965.
All right. Yeah.
So you were part of that scene in the 50s.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit of what you played, the bands you played in during that period?
Well, I started music late. I started when I was 13. And then I learned trumpet from one trumpet teacher, very good teacher, Pak Sakban, I call him. He's Sobronto's father.
Oh, okay.
Learned from him because he come from the music line in Jakarta. His brother was the music director of Radio Orchestra in Jakarta, Radio Republic Indonesia.
I see.
He was the music director there. And then Pak Saban followed the Bangsawan at that time during the 40s and anything like that. So he married one of those Bangsawan punya girls, and then he, live in Singapore for good. That's where my father knew him, and then I was taken to him to learn the trumpet. And then he was a very dedicated teacher, very, very patient, very humble, and very pleasant person.
Yeah.
And he never asked a single cent from my father. For 3 years, solid years, I was learning from him.
It's fantastic.
At no charge.
Yeah, he had two sons that became very prominent. One is you mentioned Subranto, and also Bong Saban also.
Bong Saban, his elder brother.
Yeah, he went to study in Berkeley and became a wonderful arranger in the style of Gil Evans, actually. Yeah. So that's great. And some of the people who were very active in the scene at the time, of course, were the very famous P. Ramlee, right? And of course, P. Ramlee's disciple Kasim Masdor and Yusno F. and all used to be there as young men following the great P. Ramlee. And P. Ramlee was, as you mentioned, was at Cathay Chris or Shaw?
Shaw Brothers, yeah.
So then on the other side, Zubir Syed, the composer of the Singapore National Anthem, Majulah Singapura.
Right, he was with Cathay Chris.
Right, and he also was writing wonderful melodies, and all the melodies that you think of from P. Ramlee and Zubir Syed actually lend themselves to jazz arrangements, right?
Yes, he was more self-taught. Old people at that time were all self-taught, mostly.
Yeah.
P. Ramlee, Yusuf B, Osman Ahmad, all those great composers,
Yeah.
So, like in Shaw Brothers, it was not only just P. Ramlee, contributing towards compositions. We also have, composition from Osman Ahmad and Yusuf B, or even Ahmad Jaafar also.
Yeah.
Composing for the films, produced by Shaw Brothers. Whereas in Cathay Chris, I think it was dominated by Zubir Syed most of the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were so many jazz musicians that started after the war, right? People like Jerry Soliano.
Jerry has got a lot of brothers and sisters under him, and most of them were musicians, and then they played jazz too,
Yeah.
So, Paul Soliano, apart from Jerry, is Paul Soliano.
I think Paul Soliano, if I'm not mistaken, is Louis Soliano's father.
Yes, he plays the violin and piano,
right.
I think. And then you have Con Soliano plays the piano.
Yes.
And then you have the sisters, the elder sisters, Alfonso, elder sister. She also was a singer and also plays piano and things like that, So most of the brothers and sisters, they were all musicians. Great musicians, great jazz musicians.
Even though you moved from Singapore to Malaysia in 1961, I think you were still quite connected with the genesis of the RTS Orchestra, Radio TV Singapore Orchestra.
Yes.
And at that time, of course, Ahmad Jaafar was started as the band leader. Was he the first band leader of RTS Orchestra?
No, the first leader was Dick Abel.
Oh, Dick Abel, I see.
Dick Abel was the first leader.
Dick Abel was a fantastic guitarist who ended up becoming the guitarist of the BBC Orchestra for many decades till he passed away.
Good jazz.
And after Dick Abel was Gastein, or was it straight away Ahmad Jaafar?
No, when Dick Abel left, Ahmad Jaafar took over for a while. And then Gastein in 1957.
I see.
Gastein took over. So when Gus took over, he used to call me as an apprentice to play with artists whenever they have big concerts, something like that.
Yeah.
And then when Singapore was undergoing a redevelopment program where most of the government officers were slashed with 50% pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
So Gaston left.
I see.
He left. He left for Australia and he was working with the rock band, something like that. That was somewhere around 1965 when Gus went to Australia.
Yeah.
Gaston came over to work with us, and because of him being in orchestra RTM was able to send me to study in Berkeley.
I see. Yeah.
Otherwise, there was nobody handing over the orchestra.
Right.
I respect Gaston very much because he was a very refined arranger, a very refined pianist. although he was a heavy touch,
Yeah.
he was very heavy, but I like the style he wrote his arrangements and things like that. Very refined arranger.
Right.
So he was very helpful when I was away. But one thing good about him, because he never stopped learning.
Right.
When I came back from Berkeley, I learned a lot of things also.
Yeah.
So I started writing the new style, new voicings.
Yes, I remember very clearly.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. I was like, you opened my eyes, I was, as they say in Malay, katak di bawah tempurung, right? So I tell you, when you played that, I felt like the tempurung was lifted, and I realized that all the potential of harmonies.
Thank you for the kind words. Very generous. And after recording, we did some recording. I did some new arrangement for the orchestra. So after the recording, I noticed that Gus took my score and then he was looking through my score. Obviously, he was looking how the voicing was done for the brass and the saxes, because it's completely a different style of writing. Like before, you have the trumpets on the top, you have the saxes at the bottom, trombones in the middle.
Yeah.
But then when I went there, there's a new type of voicing where the trombone and saxes all mixed all together.
Yeah.
And they make it a very solid sound, like a wall,
Yeah.
Bah!
Yeah.
Those are the writing techniques that I learned from Herb Amroy.
Herb Amroy.
Herb Amroy. The linear writing, the what you call it, the solid voicing, where you mix the brass and trombone, the and things like that. So you have intermingled kind of
we have
voicing.
to get you to do a master class on arrangement also. So going back to Singapore, you remember that in the 60s, the young guys that started to join the RTS orchestra, people like Ronaldo La Chica, Celso La Chica, Winston Filmer also went on bass, right?
Winston Filmer, yes.
He was on bass. And then, Rufino Soliano.
He was on drums.
Cousin, Luis Soliano's cousin, he was on drums.
Yeah.
And also played vibraphone, if you remember.
He played vibraphone, yes.
And, so, can you try and recall that time, even though you had already moved to Malaysia, because you were still quite closely connected with the Singapore scene? What was happening in the RTS orchestra and the jazz musicians that were playing at that time? Can you name some of the other, Benji Kleinman was the guy I was trying to think about, in our earlier conversation. Also was around, right? He was a great jazz pianist also.
Yeah, Benji Kleinman was more playing for the Rediffusion punya band. Not with RTS.
So Rediffusion had their own big band?
They had a lot. They had quite rapid, what you call it, music program. But Benji was all the time there.
I see. Okay, so that's where he was. Yeah, and he was also a wonderful pianist. I saw. So there were both the orchestras at Singapore and Malaysia separated. The orchestras started to work independently, but there was still some collaboration between the two orchestras, right?
Oh, yes. At one time in 1962, where we combined Radio Singapore and Radio Malaysia, we performed in a concert, Malam Irama Malaysia. At the time when we really enjoyed, because the whole group of the Radio Singapore Orchestra and we combined. And then we had joint conductor also. Alfonso conducted and Ahmad Jaafar conducted, and then we had one conductor from Singapore, from Indonesia, Saiful Bahri, things like that. And then we have few other conductors like from the Royal Police Band and things like that.
Yeah.
At that time I was only about 22 years old. But I wrote some works for the concert, which was very, very meaningful, because that was the first time where we combined, So at that time, we considered that Radio Singapore Orchestra is just like our elder brother. Radio Malaya was at that time formed in 1961. So we were very close. Whenever I was on leave going to Singapore, I always visited RTS and things like that. Apart from the names that I mentioned, like Ahmad Jaafar and all the Gaston and things like that, we forgot about Charlie Lazaru.
Of course. How can we forget about Charlie Lazaru?
He played an important role also.
Yes. And Charlie Lazaru actually, and my father used to play golf all the time. Yeah. So I'm here now with the great musician, arranger, and band leader and music director of the RTM Orchestra, who came from Singapore, moved to Malaysia in 1961, Dato Johari Salleh. And this is just an introductory interview I'm doing with him. And Dato has kindly consented to be part of our research project for the book that the Jazz Association Singapore is writing. It's going to be written by Kannan Chandran. I'll be co-writing it with some research backup as well. We want to write about the history of Singapore jazz from 1965 to 2025. So 60 years of Singapore jazz history.
Yes.
And Dato, thank you very much for agreeing to being part of our research project and to help us to all this, just from the earlier research interview and also now this conversation. You brought up so many names that we can certainly...
yes. I feel privileged also because you have included me in your project. I feel very happy also, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Johari Salleh. And look out for this book from the Jazz Association Singapore, celebrating our 10th anniversary and celebrating 60 years of jazz in Singapore.
All right.